Sometimes a single word can unravel years of misunderstanding. For me, that word was satisfied, and it changed everything. Hey there, it's me, Core, and you're listening to Exercising Self-Control, from Fitness to Flourishing. When I was rereading Zeno and Stoic Consistency by John M. Rist, I had to stop after reading this passage. Begin quote. According to Stobaeus, the Stoics were in the habit of saying the telos is being happy. To be happy is something with which we are satisfied. We do not use happiness as a means to achieving something else. End quote. Telos, if you haven't heard that word before, means the ultimate aim or objective. The Stoics, then, were in the habit of saying the ultimate aim is being happy. I already knew the word happy is a not quite right translation as we understand happy today. A more accurate word is flourishing. To flourish means to grow or develop in a healthy or vigorous way. The Greek concept of eudaimonia, often translated as happiness or flourishing, was central to ancient philosophy. But as I would discover, our modern understanding of these words may miss the mark. That day, it was the word satisfied that captured my attention. In the quote, "To be happy is something with which we are satisfied." Now, having learned that happiness as a translation was better served by flourishing, I was closer to fully accepting the possibility of this quote by Epictetus, my favorite Stoic. Begin quote. Who, then, is a Stoic? Show someone who is ill and yet happy, in danger and yet happy, dying and yet happy, exiled and yet happy. Show me such a person. By the gods, how greatly I long to see a Stoic. End quote. To me, happy seemed like a stretch. To be experiencing any of these circumstances and yet be happy, that doesn't seem right. But satisfied, that is probably closer to what the Stoics meant. Satisfied seems a more appropriate emotion when facing one's challenges, especially one's own death, more so than happiness. To face one's impending or even immediate death with, "It was a good life, it's enough, I'm satisfied," that seems doable. But to be happy in that circumstance? This challenge led me to reconsider what happy really meant in this context. Then I read another quote from Epictetus. Begin quote. For a being that is happy must be in possession of all that it wants. It must resemble a man who has eaten his fill. It must feel neither hunger nor thirst. End quote. Feeling neither hunger nor thirst is not happiness to my thinking, but it is satisfaction. This distinction between happiness and satisfaction sent me searching for a more precise understanding of these terms. I read this dictionary definition of happy: feeling or showing contentment. Even knowing that's a dictionary definition, happy still seems off to me. However, now I was considering contentment as a possible alternative. This sent me diving into dictionaries, and what I found changed everything. Content, willing to accept a particular thing. Now that was interesting. So down the rabbit hole I went, looking up more definitions, reading etymologies, comparing and contrasting synonyms. A pattern emerged. And here's where I landed. Contentment emerged as something far more profound than either happiness or satisfaction. Remember, the definition of content is willing to accept a particular thing. That single word, willing, changes everything. You can choose to be willing. That means you can choose to be content. It's an act of will, not an emotion you must conjure or a feeling you must chase. Think about it. Facing illness, you might not feel happy, but you can choose to say, I accept this reality while I work with what I have. Facing a move because of work, which might be considered ancient exile, you can decide, I am willing to find meaning here. In this place, I didn't choose. This isn't about passive resignation or giving up. It's about consciously choosing your stance toward reality. Viktor Frankl, the author of A Man's Search for Meaning, chose contentment in a concentration camp. Marcus Aurelius, the author of Meditations, chose contentment while leading an empire through plague and war. They weren't happy in our modern sense. They were something more durable, content by choice. Unlike a feeling like happiness, feelings are not up to you as an act of will. What you can do is indirectly influence your feelings with what you choose to think and do. But you can, as an act of will, choose to be willing to accept something, like your own illness, or even your own death. Perhaps not easily, but it can be done with intention and volition. Of course, choosing contentment in the face of death or illness isn't simple. The ancient Stoics dedicated their life to practicing this discipline. But knowing it's a choice, not a feeling we must manufacture, makes it more accessible. This is like the difference between staying committed and staying motivated. You can choose to stay committed. That's up to you as an act of will. You can't choose to stay motivated. The body does what it does with emotions and feelings. This distinction has practical implications. When facing difficulties, instead of forcing ourselves to be happy, we can ask, can I choose to be willing to accept this? It's a more honest and achievable goal. So where does this leave us with the challenge from Epictetus? Show me someone who is ill and yet happy, dying and yet happy, exiled and yet happy. Paraphrasing Epictetus, with all the above taken into consideration, he might have said, show me someone who has chosen to be content despite illness, who faces death with satisfaction of a life fully lived, who accepts exile while remaining whole within themselves. Show me someone who understands that contentment is not a feeling that happens to them, but a choice they make again and again, especially when happiness seems impossible. This shifts our understanding of the Stoic Telos. It isn't about achieving a feeling of happiness. It's about developing the strength to choose contentment, whatever the circumstances. And unlike happiness, which comes and goes like the weather, this choice is always within our power. That ancient Greek word eudaimonia, so often translated as happiness, might be better understood as the flourishing that comes from choosing to be content with reality while working skillfully within it. It's not about feeling good. It's about choosing to be good with what is. And that changes everything. That's it for today. Catch you next time.